all for joining us for this meeting. We hope you find it informative. Please do not hesitate to ask questions because we do want to make sure this is interactive. So we'll jump right in here. So first and foremost, and this part will be quick, but first of all, what is Club 20? And as you may or may not know, we were started in 1953 for the purpose of getting rural road funding over here on the Western Slope. And we've since expanded those advocacy efforts to encompass a broad variety of issues that impact our region. We started with just 20 counties, and then we had 2 mountain counties who felt they had more in common with the Western Slope than with the Front Range. So they joined our ranks a couple years after we started. So that's why the name's Club 20, but we have 22 counties. So it's kind of a misnomer, but you know, as a 68-year-old organization, we're too far along now to change our name, so we're sticking with it. Our members are individuals, they are businesses, they are community leaders, local governments, river districts, you name it. Anybody who has an interest in promoting and protecting all that is Western Colorado is welcome here at Club 20. So this is a little org chart because I think it helps our members really get a feel for who's in charge of this organization. And it is in fact you, our Club 20 members, at the very top of our org chart. As a member of Club 20, you propose policies, you elect the Club 20 Board of Directors, and the Board of Directors elects the Executive Committee, which ultimately hires and fires me. So it's a big circle, but with our members as our focus right there at the top of this chart here. We'll run through the policy committees and how that all works here in just a moment. So the leadership of Club 20, if you're not familiar, our current board chair is Merritt Linke, who is a rancher and Grand County Commissioner. Also Cindy Dozier, who's a former Hinsdale County Commissioner. She's our immediate past chair. And our incoming board chair is Brad McLeod, who's the area manager for Xcel Energy. And of course, I've already introduced you to the staff. My name's Christian Reese, I'm the executive director, and you met Brittany and Julia just a bit earlier. So we are a small but mighty team, but we sure do get a lot done to represent our 22 counties. And this text might be a touch small on your screen, but this is our current board of directors roster. And we get this question a lot. Members say, well, I don't know who represents my county. This is it. It can also be found on the Club 20 website. So if there's any changes or anything like that, which there usually are not, you can find this information on the Club 20 website along with our executive committee roster, which is on this slide here. So just to back up a touch, one of the questions that we do get, and I'll flip back to this slide, is how do we elect our board of directors? And that actually happens every other year, depending on what county you're in. So we actually go to half of our counties every year in person. So that would be 11 of our counties. And we convene a meeting of all of the Club 20 members within that county. So as an example, if we were going to Archuleta County to hold the Archuleta County Caucus, we would invite all of the Club 20 members that have a membership within that county. They would come to a meeting and we would discuss the roles and responsibilities of serving on the Club 20 Board of Directors. And then the members of that county would actually vote for board members. Each county gets 3 positions on our board of directors. So there's a primary voting member, a first alternate, and a second alternate. So the way that that's intended to work is that the first alternate would represent the county at board meetings. And if the first alternate was unable to attend, then if the primary voting member was unable to attend, then the first alternate would take their place. If the first alternate wasn't available, then the second alternate would take their place. But what typically happens is that all 3 individuals show up at our board meetings and they vote on policy issues. and we love their participation. We just have a really full room when that happens. So if you're interested in serving on the board of directors, I'd be glad to visit with you a little bit more one-on-one about what the roles and responsibilities look like and get you that information for when your next county caucus is. County caucuses, as I mentioned, are held every other year. So we go to half the counties one year and then the other half the counties the next year. So a board of directors term is just 2 years. And of course, the board of directors elects our executive committee. They do that every other year at our spring board meeting when our new board chair takes over. So that's actually going to happen at the spring meeting of 2022. We will have a new board chair, and the board of directors at that time will elect the executive committee. The board elects the chair, they don't elect the past chair, but they elect the chair, the incoming chair, the secretary, the treasurer, the membership chair. And then we actually hold mini caucuses during that board meeting to select representatives from the 4 Department of Local Affairs regions within our territory. So that's Region 9, Region 10, Region 11, and Region 12. So each of those regions get a member on the executive committee. The gold and platinum members also get 1 member on our executive committee to represent their interests. And then the board chair gets to make 4 board chair appointments of anybody of his or her choosing to serve on the executive committee. So you can see who those folks are there on your screen. As I mentioned previously, the work of Club 20 really happens at our policy committees. We have 10 policy committees, and you can see them listed out there on your screen. Agriculture, Business Affairs, Education and Workforce Development, Energy, Healthcare, Public Lands and Natural Resources, Telecommunications, Tourism and Outdoor Recreation, Transportation, and Water. Our policy committees meet twice a year to hear the most pressing issues that are impacting our region and to update our policies that we currently have on the books and to propose new policies. So the way that typically works is if there's an issue that is impacting our region that our committee chairs feel like we need to engage on, then what we try to do is have a pro-con presentation on that issue to make sure that we're hearing both sides. After we've heard those presentations, we develop a resolution, which is kind of a policy statement, if you will, that typically starts out with some background information and then ends with an action statement that says Club 20 supports X, Y, or Z, or Club 20 opposes X, Y, and Z. That resolution would then move on to the board of directors, and they would evaluate it. They might make some changes to it, and ultimately, hopefully pass that resolution by the board of directors, in which case it would then become new Club 20 policy. I use those policies to take positions on legislation, either in support or opposition. I use those policies to write letters, to weigh in on regulatory activities, you name it. The work of Club 20 comes directly from those policies. And I'll show you where we can find those on the Club 20 website here in just a moment. So you might be asking yourself, what happens when they get old and out of date? So we have a rule on the book here at Club 20 that we review all of our resolutions every 5 years at minimum. So during those policy committee meetings, we may have new policies being proposed, but what's more likely is that we're reviewing older resolutions that either need to be updated, deleted, or just completely renewed because they're still actively current. Those policy meetings can be attended virtually by Zoom. So if you're unable to attend those in person, you certainly can join us by Zoom. So one of the questions we get from members relatively often is, how do I use Club 20? And that's what we're here for. We are here to make sure that your voice is elevated on issues at the state and federal level, And we want our members to actively engage with us so that we can accurately represent the voice of our constituent, which is our membership. So Club 20 does issue-based advocacy. We work on legislation, we work on regulations, we weigh in on ballot measures, you name it. As long as it's consistent with the resolution we have on the books, we will engage. We have an expansive network of leaders. So if you're looking to build out your professional network, if you're interested in running for political office, there's somebody here at Club 20 who can give you some advice, some counsel, and help make those right connections. All you have to do is attend the events, or what happens all the time is somebody will call me and say, hey, do you know somebody in this field? And I'll say, oh yeah, I do, let me connect you. And that happens a lot. I am the connector of people amongst our members, and I'm happy to serve in that capacity. We are also more than happy to write letters of support for positions, and that doesn't have to be just a position on a piece of legislation. You know, as Michelle had noted, we recently submitted a letter on the redistricting process, which we hope was impactful to the Redistricting Commission. But we also write letters of support for members trying to get on boards or commissions at the state level, trying to serve on organizations like the Colorado Parks and Wildlife Commission. So if you're ever interested in serving in that capacity, please don't hesitate to reach out to us for a letter of support. We'd be happy to help you. It's always our goal to get thoughtful leaders in key positions. And so we're glad to support Club 20 members applying for those key roles at our state and local levels. We also are more than happy to travel throughout the region and even outside of the region. Michelle, if you ever would like us to talk about Club 20. We love presenting at Rotary clubs and Lions clubs and chambers of commerce, you name it. We just love spreading the message and the good work of our organization. So if you ever have an opportunity that you would like for us to come visit, even in a smaller capacity, even if it's just coffee with a couple of community leaders who you think need to get engaged and involved, we'd love to come for a visit. One of the best ways for new Club 20 members to get enveloped in our organization is to attend events. And this is truly where all the networking happens. And we are doing in-person events again, which is extremely exciting. So we just wrapped up our spring conference a couple months ago at this point, and now we're actually looking toward our summer policy meetings where our 10 policy committees will actually be meeting in person to discuss issues impacting their specific issue area. The first week of those meetings will be held in Montrose, and the second week will be held up in Craig. So we hope that you can join us for those. A calendar of those meetings can be found on the Club 20 website, and I'll show you where that's at here in just a moment. When we asked our members a couple of years ago what the most valuable thing that they receive is for their membership, one of the things that they mentioned was all of the educational opportunities that Club 20 provides, whether it's our virtual town halls, our annual events, or our policy committee meetings. Club 20 provides a broad swath of information tailored to any topic that you might be interested in. And we also provide those opportunities to influence key decision makers, which will hopefully benefit our members when it comes to actually seeing actionable outcomes. So I've mentioned our events a few times. We have our Voices of Rural Colorado joint visit with Action 22 and Pro 15. That happens in Denver in January, typically when we're not in a pandemic. And we usually have around 160 members from all three organizations that join us for that meeting. It's a really incredible event, and it really elevates the voice of rural Colorado. As I mentioned, our policy committees, those meet twice a year, once in the winter, typically in Grand Junction, and then once in the summer, usually out in the region. We have our spring conference and awards banquet that's held in Grand Junction, and we just wrapped that one up just a couple weeks ago. We have our Washington, D.C. fly-in every other year. And this year we're hosting it virtually. We're actually hosting that next week virtually. But typically we fly out to Washington, D.C. and we meet with key decision makers and leaders at the federal level. And we build in a little extra time for fun as well. Since the pandemic started, we started something new called our member exclusive virtual town halls. These are an opportunity to engage with leaders, with elected officials, key decision makers on a one-on-one basis for about an hour directly with our Club 20 members. And they've really added a lot of value to the Club 20 membership. We also have our fall conference and steak fry, which is a cannot miss event. It's so much fun. We typically have somewhere between 200 and 300 people who attend our steak fry every single year. And it's outdoors. It's a really fun way to network with people in a really fun and social setting. And then of course we have a variety of speakers who come in and speak the following day. And during election years, we host the largest candidate debates in Western Colorado. Last year, we actually live streamed our debates, and those were viewed by more people than we could have ever imagined. So we expect to do a hybrid model of that this next election cycle. And then last but certainly not least, I mentioned some of this earlier, but our county caucuses happen every year where we elect our board of directors. So now I want to take a quick moment just to show you the Club 20 website, because this is really where you're going to be interfacing with Club 20 more. So here on your screen is the Club 20 website. And it's changing constantly because Julia and Brittany are always adding new features to it. But one of the coolest things that happens right off the bat is down in the bottom right-hand corner, there's a little icon that says, "We are here," and a little chat feature. So if you click on that, a chat box pops up and I can type into the chat, "Hi, Julia," because it's actually Julia who's here with us right now, sitting at her computer. And whenever a member types something into the chat, she gets a little alert on her computer, and then she can chat back with you. So if you're ever struggling to find something on the website or struggling to write or to register for an event, use that chat feature and Julia will get you all squared away. So I'm gonna, oh, she's chatting back. There she is. Thanks, Julia. Okay, so turning back to our website, the landing page really has just general information about Club 20, but as you scroll down, you get to this section, which has our articles, some of our recent activities, really some of the most important things that we've been working on here. So as you can see, front and center, Michelle, redistricting right here. We have little links here to submit a comment and to learn more about what redistricting is and what it's not. We have the map that Club 20 has developed with the help of Michelle with Action 22 and Pro 15. So that's front and center. And then just below that is the latest news, our articles, events that are coming up, our 2021 calendar of events here. These are our virtual town hall announcements and links to the recordings of those events if you want to go back and watch some of those. And then of course, a link down here to pay your membership dues. That's something that we're constantly improving. It can be a little bit clunky, but we're actually getting ready to do an upgrade to the membership site of our website, which should make that process a whole lot easier. And then of course, our key Club 20 partners down here. But scrolling back up to the top, the first link here is contact us. That's pretty self-explanatory. Our contact information is listed here. If you want to learn a little bit more about who Club 20 is and what we do, click on the About tab, and it will actually give you a little blurb about who we are. There's this really great video that describes who we are, our mission statement, some background information, our staff, and you can actually get our contact information here, and a little bit of general information about the organization. If you click on leadership, you can see our board of directors roster. And actually, you can click on it by county specifically and see who your representative is. So let's say San Miguel County. There's a little drop down and you can see that Cress Holstrom is the voting member because she's at the top of the list. And then we have Delaney Young and then Kiefer Perino. There is our members of the board for San Miguel County. So that's a fun little feature the girls built in there. And then below that is our Club 20 Executive Committee. Below that, you can see each of our 10 policy committees. And if you click on those, you can see who those chairs are. So if you're looking to get in touch with them, these are the folks you want to talk to. On our upcoming events page of our website, you can see the calendar of events. You can see information about the virtual Washington, D.C. trip and register. You can also see some information that the girls put up about the new member orientation. So that's your event center. This next section is for legislative information. So you can actually take a look at what bills we've taken positions on. You can find your legislator's contact information here by clicking on the legislative directory. If it wants to load for me, it's not wanting to load for me. But going back to the bill tracking, there are links on this page where you can see the action report, and the action report are the list of bills we have taken a position on. So that would be a position of support or oppose. And then the watch lists are the list of bills that we're keeping an eye on. So it's our full list, and there's going to be monitor positions in there, a variety of bills we're looking at. So if you're curious about where we fall on an issue, those can be found there. And then one of the most important parts of the website is the policy section. So moving into the policy section, you can actually go to our resolutions and see what resolutions we currently have on the books. Now, I'll tell you there's a lot of them. So let's say you're looking for a specific topic. You can find that by a couple of different ways. You can find it by committee, by clicking that little drop-down menu and searching through the different committees. Or let's say you don't have time and you're in a hurry, you can click that little search feature there, and let's say wolf, type wolf in, click enter, and then any of our resolutions or items on our website that have to do with wolves will populate. And you can see it's highlighted there in yellow. So there's a portion in the Endangered Species Act. There was a wolf presentation at our 2021 winter policy meetings. So you can search for specific keywords by using that little magnifying glass there. Our top issues document that are created by our committee chairs can be found here if you want to see what some of our priorities are for the 2021 legislative session. And then moving over into resources, you can see a directory of the Colorado General Assembly, the Colorado Boards and Commissions directory. If you're interested in getting involved, but you really don't know where to start, this is your place. And then we've also got a link to the 10-year transportation plan if you want to see what projects are planned for your region. And then last but not least, Action 22 and Pro 15. If you're unfamiliar with them, they are our sister organizations. Action 22 is the organization that represents the 22 counties in the southeastern part of the state up into the Colorado Springs area, whereas Pro 15 is our sister organization that represents the counties in the northeastern corner of the state. So together, our three organizations represent 59 of Colorado's 64 counties, and we work very closely with one another, though we are independent organizations. And then before I turn it over to Julia, I just want to note up here there are links to our social media. We have our Facebook, our Twitter, and our LinkedIn. I would encourage you to follow us on those social media platforms because we do post on those regularly so you can stay engaged and informed as to what we're currently working on. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Julia, and she is going to demonstrate how to use the membership side of the Club 20 website.
So I'm just going to do a quick rundown of the membership side of our website. On our website, there are some things that can only be accessed by members. So for example, if I go into the town hall recordings, this message will pop up saying that only members can access it. Also, whenever you are registering for events, you have to make sure that you are logged in. For an example, if you're going into our website to pay dues, it'll pop up with this message that you have to log in to register. Or even with events that are open to non-members, you still want to make sure you log in before registering, or else once you get to the checkout, it will make you log in. So how to log in, you navigate over here and then type in your login info. And so when you joined as a member, you should have gotten an email with all your login information, but if you didn't receive that or you forget your login information for whatever reason, you can always reach out to staff and we'll help you get into your account. And then also as another feature, we have this keep me signed in option. So that means every time you come to our website, you'll already be logged in, so you won't have to worry about that when registering for events. And down here, if you ever forget your password, you can click here and it will send you an email to reset it. But also, if you ever run into issues with that, you can always reach out to staff and we'll help you reset that password. So once you're logged in, I'll show you if you navigate back to the town hall recordings. Now all these recordings will pop up for you to be able to watch. And also then you can go in and pay your dues, and depending on your membership account, it will just auto-populate the price of your dues, so you can just go in and pay that online, which is a nice feature. So when you get into your account, there are a few things you can do. For an example, if you have a business account, if the main individual associated with that changes, you can always change their name or change the email address associated with the account. And you can also always go in and change your password if needed. So then I'll navigate over to my profile, and here it'll give any information that I have filled out. But if you ever want to edit that, you can click the settings bar, go to edit profile, and you can add a picture, you can add a bio, and say for example, you want people to be able to have your mailing address. You can just enter that in here and update your profile. And then it'll pop back up onto your profile. And then if you ever want to view other members' profiles, you can click this Click Browse Members here. And here you will have a list of all our current active members. And you can click this drop down and get their emails. And for an example, if you ever want to give someone a call, let's say you want to give Ray Beck a call, you can just search it up here. Let's see. And then he'll pop up. As you can see, he's added a nice profile picture. And you can click on him and go into his profile. And then there's his number, so you can give him a call. Another cool feature that the membership directory has is you can search people by city. So say you want to see who's a member in Grand Junction, you can just type that in there, and then it'll come up with all our Grand Junction members. So that's the main features within the membership side of our website. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Christian.
Thanks, Julia. And as I mentioned earlier, we are getting ready to make some upgrades to the membership side of the Club 20 website. So there's increased functionality coming down the pike. So stay tuned for that. We'll probably do kind of an orientation video on how to use the membership side once we get that upgraded, but we expect that to happen sometime this summer and hope to have it fully functional by the end of the year. It takes a while to migrate so much of that data over into a new membership platform, so we expect it to take a couple of months, but once we get that transitioned, we think it'll be a lot more user-friendly for our members to be able to engage with each other and to engage with Club 20. So that concludes everything we had, and I want to just open it up for any Q&A to answer any questions, provide any clarity on anything that seems ambiguous. So, David, do you have a question?
I do. I'm ignorant about Club 20. What has your effect been with legislation? I mean, you know, it's kind of a direct question, but I mean, how effective have you guys been in shaping legislation?
Well, as you can imagine, with 68 years of a track record, we've had strong years. We've had years where we've struggled to gain traction, but overall, I would say we've been extremely effective in influencing policy here in Colorado and even at the national level. One example is that the Colorado Constitution used to be one of the most difficult or easiest constitutions in the country to amend. I apologize. And it was being amended by out-of-state special interests every single year as a kind of a petri dish to test out initiatives. And some of us, you know, in the political world didn't see that as the best use of our citizen-initiated process. So we actually were part of a coalition that ran a ballot measure to make our Constitution more difficult to amend, to increase the bar for passage from a simple majority to a supermajority to 50% to 55%. And then in order to get a citizen-initiated constitutional amendment on the ballot, we have to collect signatures from all of Colorado's 35 Senate districts, rather than just collecting signatures in the Denver metro area. So that was a recent effort that we were extremely impactful on. Most recently, we have engaged the Redistricting Commission in a pretty impactful manner. We testified before them exclusively during their last commission hearing regarding keeping the Western Slope in one congressional district rather than dividing us in half, as some entities have proposed to do. And we are continuing to engage the commission to try to keep our region together. At the legislative level, we've influenced a number of pieces of legislation. I can tell you most recently, the transportation bill that's going through the process right now failed to put some limitations on the rulemaking authorities of the enterprise boards that were created in that bill. It was just an oversight, I think, that nobody else had caught it until we said, you know, wait a second, you know, what kind of, are we going to make these boards that are charged with doling out funds a rulemaking board where they can actually promulgate rules that impact the policies of Colorado? And it wasn't intended that they would have that authority, but it wasn't excluded in the language of the legislation. And so there's amendments that are coming down the pike to clarify that out a little bit, to make sure they don't have rulemaking authority. But I'm not sure if that answers your question. I could go on.
Well, it does. You know, I guess, you know, cutting to the chase, do legislatures pay attention to us? Do they feel that we represent a voting bloc who can sway their particular elections?
They do pay attention to us. I can tell you throughout the session, I have legislators text messaging me while they're in committee hearings, asking me where Club 20 falls on an issue.
Okay.
And I do text them back. I believe that in previous legislatures, we have had a more collaborative relationship with some of our front range elected officials than what we're seeing right now. Our rural legislators, regardless of political affiliation, are really outnumbered, and we always have been, which is why Club 20 was created. But in the past, there was a little more of a genuine effort to try to collaborate with the rural legislators, whereas I think that's been lost this legislative session. So we are trying to do what we can to further that collaboration by working with those legislators, by working with the governor's office and other key leaders to make sure that the rural voice isn't lost.
Okay, great. Well, I appreciate that.
What else? Doug, do you have questions?
I do. I was curious about the process of local feedback on CDOT projects. I'm just looking here from San Miguel County. I don't think they're listening to anybody really. You know, it's not back door, not front door. Either way, as far as I can tell.
Yeah. Well, we've enjoyed a really close relationship with CDOT and have a direct line of communication with the CDOT executive director. So should there need to be greater engagement with San Miguel County, that's certainly a message that I'm happy to pass along to her. She is very passionate about rural roads, more so than previous CDOT directors, in my opinion. So I know that she would want to be alerted if there were a lack of communication with one of our communities. She has recently presented at the Club 20 Spring Conference, and then also did a virtual town hall with our members in the last 6 months. I don't remember how long ago it was, but she's always open and willing to visit with our Club 20 members, and I'd be glad to pass that message along to her.
It's Shoshana Luke.
Correct.
Yes, more detail, but that would be much appreciated. Thank you.
Of course. And that's one of the fun things about Club 20 as well. We have such a broad network, and it's not just our members. It's, hey, do you know somebody in Washington, D.C. who works on this issue? Or do you have a relationship with this person in Denver? Because I'm really seeing, a lack of communication. And the answer is more often than not, yes. So we're happy to make those connections, to pass messages along. And, if it rises to the level, then we can help hold a meeting between, for example, CDOT and San Miguel County to make sure that their feedback on local CDOT projects is actually being heard.
Thank you. Thank you.
Of course. David, do you have any more questions?
No, I'm just getting into it. This is my first effort at any kind of political organization, so I'm just here as a student at this point.
So I will tell you, the reason that I came to Club 20 was because we are a bipartisan organization and we are an issues-focused organization. So regardless of, what our history might have been 20 years ago, we are more bipartisan now than we probably have ever been. And we listen to both sides of issues and really advocate for what's in the best interest of Western Colorado, not for one political party or the other. And that can be beneficial to some. It can be frustrating to others. But I've seen us, come down on one side of the aisle on one issue, and the very next day come down on the other side of the aisle on a separate issue. And that is the beauty of Club 20, is that we are advocating for the best interest of the region, not the best interest for a political outcome per se, which I find extremely refreshing.
Yeah, that's what attracted me. I've had enough of the candidate-driven politics.
Yeah. Recently we did a leadership retreat, and one of our executive committee members said Club 20 takes complex issues and fully explores them and makes them digestible and easy for people to understand. And I think that's something that some organizations just aren't out there really doing as much these days. So we're a leader in that space.
Well, I'm looking forward to learning more and getting more involved.
Well, we're awfully excited to have you as our new member, and same thing to Doug. Doug, thank you so much for being so engaged and being on our virtual town halls and not being afraid to ask the tough questions. It is our responsibility to hold our elected officials accountable in a respectful way, and we do that here at Club 20. So I sure appreciate you guys joining us for this virtual town hall or this virtual member orientation this morning. You can see where my head's at. I've got DC going on at the same time, so we're planning that process. But we sure hope you guys can join us next week for our virtual Washington, D.C. fly-in. Should you have any additional questions or concerns, or maybe we take a position that you don't agree with, give us a call, shoot us an email, let us know. We'd love to visit with you and talk things through with you and make sure that you get the information that you need.
Thanks for holding this. Appreciate your time.
Of course. Thank you all, and happy Friday.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.